from along the road.
Along the road. Along the road.
We ended up here. We ended up talking about childhood and orgasms and that. So I don't like it. I just like the smell.
So why did you film that?
It's a great question. That 3 months later, I said I was going to do it again. He was like, "You said that last time. You're full of shit." And I'd never heard that before. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, I was like, "Fuck it." Aye. And she said she was almost close to just letting me do it because she could see how much pain I was in.
Mm-hmm. So today we're joined with Paul Mort.
Hey, sir. Yes, come on, bring
Life Transformation Coach. I know I've had you on the podcast a few years ago, mate, when it was crap as out. It was on Zoom. Do you remember? We did that Zoom. Do you not remember doing the Zoom podcast? Right, well, you were.
When was it? 2020?
Mate,
in the lockdown?
I was
in the lockdown.
I was stuck in my room in the house and I got you on a podcast. I got
shit.
Darren on in a few years.
Yeah, I've done a lot of them,
I know,
I've done a lot of them, so many that I can't remember, and there's a reason. I love doing them like this. They're so different, aren't they?
The unbelievable. I mean, to be fair, normally I bring all my stuff everywhere I can, but I've never ever yet been hosted like this before.
Well, I'll tell you what's really weird. Having your own podcast studio and being on someone else's podcast is really weird. But you didn't. The connection's totally different. When I talk about, I'm going totally off topic here, but I was training some guys on. I have quite a solid network. Like, I'd like to consider myself connected. Mm-hmm. And people always ask me, how have you built this network? I'm like, I don't know, I don't know. And then when I was on holiday, and it was really on my mind, so I started to unpack and be like, how have I built this network? And I'm like, one of the things that I've done that many people don't do is I try and make things as in person as possible, because everyone's trying to connect with you in your fucking DMs.
Exactly.
Everyone's happy to connect with you in the DMs. Everyone wants something from you in the DMs. But when you do it in person, you get a feel for people straight away. You can feel people's energy. Mm-hmm. I had who did I meet the other week? Luke 09. You know Luke 09, fucking gangster. I met him and he was like, "Paul, I love your energy. That's why I wanted to meet you." I was like, "Well, that." And in person, you can feel that. So
have you had him on the podcast?
He keeps fucking back rolling all the time. Honestly, I tell you what he's like. Trying to get him on the podcast like finding hen's teeth. Hard. He'll come on, but he's obviously had another baby now as well. His missus had another baby. So if I showed you my DMs with him on Instagram, you wouldn't believe how many times he said, "Yeah, I'll come on." But
it's mad because obviously
we'll make it happen. We'll make it happen.
You're a podcast host as well as obviously you're a life transformation coach, as you said yourself.
Yeah.
43-year-old.
Yeah.
I'm not going to answer the boring questions about how did it all begin, but I do want to know about your childhood, because at the end of the day, to be a 43-year-old dad, Paul, with a podcast and do the things you do, you must be a pretty cool dad. What was your? I mean, I'm not the best.
I'm not the best person to ask us whether I'm a cool dad. My kids might give you a different answer.
I think people looking in would say that.
Actually, do you know? I would consider myself a pretty good dad. I'm not perfect. I still get snappy with them. I still get short with them sometimes. I still quick to jump on them when they do something wrong. I catch myself. My childhood was I was going to say boring, but normal. Like, my mum and dad were together. My dad had a solid job working in a factory for 30 years. My mum worked in Temple Park Leisure Centre. Remember that?
Aye,
in the cafe at Temple Park Leisure Centre, and then she worked in Asda. Oh no, she worked at the Town Hall Cafe for a bit. So just normal parents. Sister, no one. I had what I'd call actually an easy childhood. I didn't have a hard upbringing. Went on holiday once a year, almost every year. My dad was actually a referee. How was that?
Shut up, man.
My dad worked full time in a factory, then he refereed on weekends. So actually, I did spend a lot of time with my dad, but it's just normal, mate. There's nothing that. My dad's quite a closed book. Like, I've seen him cry once, and that was at my sister's wedding. That's the only time I've seen him cry. He's not the guy that's going to tell me he loves me. I don't think I've ever heard him say that.
Really?
His actions would prove very much otherwise.
Do you think about that?
Not really.
Not
really. No. I didn't even notice it until a couple of years ago, because it's not something you think about that much.
No, I get that.
But just because he hasn't said it, I mean, his actions prove it. He's fucking never not been there for me. He's never not been there for my kids. If I need something from him, he never ever says no. I'm getting emotional talking about this. I can feel that little frog's coming out, Ribbit. And my dad's he's never said it, but his actions would prove completely otherwise. So I'm probably now, as a dad, a little bit over the top.
Aye.
With the "I love you."
Yeah.
I love you, no son. I'll just get an okay back.
But that's probably why you say you're a little bit snappy every now and again, because you're too on it. You know a
little bit. But you want your kids to do well.
Of course you do.
Do you know what I mean? Like, I want them to do well, but I learned that lesson with my kids. I learned it quite quickly, because you got to consider there's no fucking manual.
Exactly.
There's no guide on how to be the best parent. If there is, if you bought 10 guides, all of them would be different.
Yeah.
It's kind of a personal approach. So I noticed. I first remember this. You know me. I value football. Right now, I can't get enough of it. It's kind of one of them things. When I was a kid, I played a bit. Wasn't that good. Had a Sunderland season ticket. Then to build a business, I kind of stopped doing it because you're supposed to sacrifice everything, right? You can't have hobbies when you have a business. Madness, right? You can't have friends that don't have a business. You can't have people come. Well, I'm sure we'll cover that, but I started pushing my son to go to football, and then kept pushing him, and he hated it. Kept pushing him, and then he hated it. And then I was like, I'm wasting my time here. I did the same with jiu-jitsu. We showed a bit of an interest in jiu-jitsu, both of them. Started pushing them to go when they didn't want to go. Now they're like, I'm not going, Dad, I hate it. It's a real interesting thing, that. And then I had a massive breakthrough on this. 2020, I did some work with a guy called Dr. John DeMartini, amazing guy. Like an encyclopedia of knowledge on human behavior. Phenomenal guy. And I learned this thing. He's got an amazing book called The Values Factor, which I'd strongly recommend. Amazing book. And it talks about values and the alignment of values, and relationships don't work when you expect somebody else to be into what you're into and that. Do you know what I mean? So I actually thought, well, as parents, we want kids to kind of be into what we're into.
Yeah, of course.
I want them to be, they call it living vicariously through your kids. Like if you didn't make it as a footballer, you push your kid really hard to play. If you love that. I didn't really do that. But like I wanted my kids to like what I like. And then I realised they didn't. But then I think what we can sometimes do as parents is they're into some things and we just criticise them all the time. Gaming, for example.
100%.
Gaming. Criticise them for gaming. Criticise them for Snapchatting and Instagramming and what they're doing. You're like, oh, what are you doing that for? You should be doing this. And it's weird. This is what transformed my relationship with my kids. I shorted. I've done that a few times. But I started showing an interest in what they were interested in. And it transformed my relationship with them. Transformed it. My son's like, Dad, come and do that. And then suddenly he started showing interest in what I was into. And now he's doing me head in because he's like...
But were you pushed into anything? Or was it just, son, just go and get a job, just whatever?
Doing better. I was just pushed into doing better. Always through the... In fact, my mum, funny enough, my mum was at my house yesterday and she said, Paul, you never guess what I found? I found your old school reports. I'm going to do a podcast on them school reports. But they'll all say the same thing. Could try harder. Could do better. Could try harder. Paul's smart, but he could try harder. Paul's intelligent, but he's always just a class clown, trying to make people laugh all the time. But you know what I mean? That was my whole childhood seemed to be, you can do better, you can do better, you could do better. I can't remember getting any praise whatsoever.
Well, the reason I asked that is because I know that when I'm watching your Instagram stories and you on social media, a lot of people, they'll constantly say, oh, I need some advice for getting a job. And you're going, well, I wouldn't have been self-employed since I was 19 or something.
No idea. I can't I don't like giving advice on things that I know nothing about.
So have you never had an actual job?
I had a job when I left school. So my dad had the factory job, but because I left school, I only had 2 GCSEs,
right?
French and Spanish, which is a
the best two.
Thing. Well, I say this when I'm doing a keynote. I passed those 2 because I had an oral exam. Now, I'm not saying I'm amazing at oral, but I am. In fact, another book recommendation for you. It's called She Comes First. Check it out. I learned. Do you know what I remember? I was working with a relationship coach, and the bit of advice I remember from her, she said, "It's not about your orgasm, Paul." Changed my life. Another bit of advice that changed my life. That.
Fucking hell.
We ended up here. Weird, I'm talking about childhood and orgasms and that. So I don't like giving advice on things that I don't have any idea about. So I left school because I had only 2 GCSEs. My options were really limited. Like back then, just to get into college, you needed 3 GCSEs or you had to resit them. And I was like, fuck another, I'm not doing that. So I actually wanted to be either a sports journalist, like I wanted to be in the sports world, a journalist, or if I'd had me time again, I would have probably tried a bit harder to make that happen. Like I always say this, it's a running joke inside of my business. You know what? I could just burn this fucking entire business to the ground. I have that thought probably every 6 or 7 months, right? Fuck this, fuck these, I don't need this, etc. Right? I think every business owner will resonate with this. Fuck this, I'll burn it to the ground. And then I'm like, and I'll just go and work on Match of the Day. I'll just take over John Motson's role. Do you know what I mean? The lads think it's hilarious. I'm like, I wonder if I could replace John Motson. I've never commentated other than when I'm playing FIFA, commentating to myself. But anyway, I couldn't get into college, so my dad was like, I've got you an apprenticeship, son. Actually, I started with a YTS because my dad's place wasn't taking on apprentices when I first started. So I started on a YTS on 30 quid a week. In a factory, and I not only hated it, I was shit at it. Right? So I was on 30 quid a week, and then on a night time, I'd go and work at Temple Park Leisure Centre, giving the rubber bands out of the pool. Right, that's what I did.
Did you work with your mum?
My ma got us that job, so I got in there with my ma. I was 16 at this point. In fact, I'm pretty sure that I was working there when I was still at school. So I had 2 jobs. In fact, I did because I remember saving the money and buying a Helly Hansen jacket. Saving all this money, and I was the coolest kid in the I looked like a fucking... I actually looked like a lifeboat. Like a human lifeboat. So I was doing that on a night time. Then on a weekend, I was working in a bar as a glass collector. That's how I met Leslie. That's my
right.
16.
In Shields, yeah.
16, she was 14 on a night out. Wild.
How's your day?
Wild, mate. Only in Shields. So I was doing that, and then my dad got me the apprenticeship, and that was a bit more money. I hated that, and I was shit at it. So I did probably 3 years of doing shit that I hated, that I was rubbish at, and I had no interest in. And that was part of the problem. I mean, 2012, I was diagnosed with ADHD. I've clearly had it my whole life, because if I'm not interested in something, you've got no chance of me wanting to get better at it. No chance of me concentrating on it, focusing on it. No matter how hard you come at me, I'm like, I can't remember anything. Are you
still like that now as well?
Oh, but I've used it since I worked with Dr. John, who said this. There's things that you have attention deficit disorder in, but there's also some things that you have attention surplus disorder in, that you can't stop thinking about, talking about. That's the shit that you value. So that's all I do now.
Yeah, to concentrate on them.
The stuff that I have attention surplus disorder in, I get obsessed with, which makes us fucking really good at what I do.
It's a massive strength, that, like,
really good at what I do. It's what people would call like an all or nothing. It's not really, but it's like, but other things, I'm just like, I'm not even going to force myself to try and learn that.
So how do you get from 2 GCSEs being shit at everything, hating jobs and all that, to falling into business? Because, like, what was your mum and dad thinking then, though, and your sister and even your mates and that? Like, did you feel
so my mates were all in the
same?
same thing. My mates were all kind of pushed into engineering. I had a couple of mates that were good footballers, so they turned pro. But most of my mates were doing the same thing. We were pushed into apprenticeships because we were massive then. It was kind of the only thing. You got a trade, right?
Aye, exactly.
You got a trade. So the world's changed so much since then. But I was pushed into this trade, and during that period, I also discovered booze, women, drugs. That's a recipe for disaster. So I stopped playing football because I was on the piss, on the lash, shagging, boozing, all that kind of shit. And I got fat. So during that period, I probably gained like 4 or 5 stone. Right, just went fat. You all see it.
I've seen the
when
pictures.
Your mates get in,
I've seen the transformation pictures.
Mad.
Mental,
and that was the second time I got fat. The first time I got fat was even worse than that. I've got some mad pictures from that time, because you've seen it with your mates when they meet a lass, right?
Aye.
They're a gangster, and then they just go. You just get comfortable. You're like, I don't need to bother about this anymore. You see it in a lot of relationships.
Which should be the opposite, shouldn't it? Really?
And then I found this book. I got sick of getting fat, and I started reading Men's Health. Right, Men's Health was legit. Probably the only place you could get information on getting in shape back then, right? And I saw this book. It was called Body for Life by this guy, Bill Phillips. It's mad. I'm friends with his brother now, which is mental. And Bill Phillips had this massive supplement. That's all it was, really. It was a book selling supplements. Protein powder. I was like, mate, this is how long ago it was. This is how old I am. Protein powder was like a kind of a new thing then. Isn't that mad?
Mad?
Protein powder and fat burners, caffeine pills, basically. It was mad. So I followed this book and I got in shape. And as I was getting in shape, people were like, what are you doing here? What are you doing here? How are you doing this? I'm like, I didn't even know. And then loads of people started asking me. I got in shape and I developed like a passion for getting in shape. And then in that same Men's Health, I saw an advert to become a certified personal trainer. I didn't know any personal trainers. I knew people that worked in gyms, but personal trainers weren't really a thing. It was just you working in gyms. They were called fitness instructors. And then there's aerobics instructors and dance teachers and all that kind of shit. I was like, I want to do this. Me, mum and dad were like, no.
Were you fat at this time?
No, I'd lost the weight.
Oh, I'd lost the weight. Right,
so I started losing the weight, and everyone was like, what are you doing? How have you done that? And I was like, oh, there might be something in this. So I just developed a passion for fitness, nutrition. I don't really have that anymore. I mean, I do, but not at that level. I'm not interested in fucking picking things up and putting them back down again. It's not it doesn't excite me at all. So back then, I loved picking things up and then putting them back down again and running to nowhere. That'd be brave work. Stop running to nowhere and picking things up and putting them back down again. So I've developed this passion. I saw this thing to be a personal trainer. My mum and dad were like, I was still living at home. My mum and dad were like, absolutely not. You're just about to finish your time. You're going to be on, I think it was like 30 grand a year. Back in 1999, that was a lot of cheese. A lot of cheese. And
that's not bad now for a PT.
And I'd spend 3 years of my life getting this apprenticeship, and I'd have the trade, and I'd be straight on 30 grand a year. As a fitness instructor, minimum wage, the most you could get paid back then was 11 grand a year. 11 grand a year for working full time. So they looked at that and they were like, absolutely no way. You're not doing that. That's ridiculous. Obviously, my dad's like, I've fucking got you in here, son. I've got you in here. I've got you this job. And now you're just going to leave. And I was like, it's what I want to do. So Leslie was behind me. She would have been 17 at the time. She was training to be a lawyer. And I remember one of my uncles actually was like, yeah, I think you should do it. He was into fitness and that as well. He's like, I think you should do it. And things got that bad that I had to actually move out with my parents and move in with Leslie's mum and dad. Because
they
were
got
like,
that bad as in they didn't believe in you and all that.
They just weren't on board.
Aye.
They just weren't on board. And I get it now. I get it now. Like they craved safety. You got to think about it. My dad was in the same factory for 30 years. My mum, 3 jobs really. Cafe, Asda. So they craved safety and certainty and what people would call now, they call it security, right?
Did you not crave it a bit though? Were you not thinking like...
No, I hated it.
Did you?
I hated it.
Even then?
I hated having to get up at the same time every single day, get picked up at the same time every day, clock in, clock out for lunch at the same time every day, and clock out and go home. I hated that. Like even now, I don't have routine. I have a little bit of routine, but I'm not ritualistic. I'm not. I don't like too much routine. I like flexibility. I like uncertainty is what I crave. Like, that's why I've been doing it for so long. That's why I'm a big risk taker. I've got no problem taking a risk. My parents are risk averse. It's probably the way that they were brought up. So I had to move in with Leslie's mum and dad, and then I did the course. And then the problem that I had when I finished the course, there was no jobs. I remember this. I went for a job. I went for a job in an old Fitness First. Fitness First was the biggest fitness company in the world at this point, I'd say, and I didn't get it. The lad who I trained with got it instead of me because he spoke better than me. And I was like, I'm fucked here. There was no other jobs in the Northeast. Nothing. The course that I studied with, Premier Global, they're like one of the biggest companies in the world now, this as a fitness certifier. It wasn't that well recognised up here. So I then had to move to Harrogate.
Fucking hell.
Right.
And you're on? Did you get me your loss?
No. She just started as trained to be a lawyer, so just me. So I had to move there. I'd come home every weekend on the National Express bus. Right? Every weekend. And then eventually I eventually got a job in Newcastle at it's called Nuffield Health now.
Right.
And it was called Greens, and I started in this gym the week before it opened. And that was when my eyes started to open up a little bit.
To the fitness industry?
To the fitness game and being self-employed, and then I got a job there. And then it's mad, they put me on shift work, and then I started to get the itch there. I was like, I just had an itch this is not for me. Not the job, the being told what to do, when to do a thing. Do you know what I mean? Being told when I could have 100%. Lunch, being told what classes I had to teach. And then I remember it all came to a head, right? I'd done the Great North Run. One of my mates had died when I was 21. I was working in this gym. And I was like, tomorrow I can come in. They wouldn't give me the day off. I was like, I'm doing the Great North Run. And the day after, I would need you to come in. I was like, no, I need the day off. They're like, we're not giving you the day off. So I came in, I was like, oh, fine, but I'm not teaching body pump. You know body pump? I was like, I can't teach that. I've just done the Great North Run. And there was another guy on shift who could have done it. He was like, no, I'm busy. I was like, no, mate, I can't do it. And he was like, you have to do it. And then I left him.
So I'm either not doing it.
I'm not doing it. Not doing it.
How did they take that? I'm not bothered. Next person through the door, I suppose.
I was just like, I'm not. That was essentially there was a few other things happening in between. I went back. I did a couple of hours here and a couple of hours there, helped them out, and then I just ended up teaching classes all around the Northeast.
How did you feel though in your mind at that point? Ooh. Did you feel like a failure in a way? Because like it's almost like you found the thing. Right, okay, I've got this thing. I've got the PT qualification. Do you know what I mean? And it's a bit like, I know you didn't want to work for other people, but...
When I was there, my eyes were opened up a little bit more to what was possible. Because you got to remember, until I went to Harrogate, I was insular as fuck. Had the same mates who were all doing the engineering thing. I'd never really been anywhere and met anyone that was self-employed. None of my family are entrepreneurs. None of my friends were entrepreneurs at this point. I'd never been exposed to anything. Had that small town South Shields mentality. Not that it's bad. It was just I didn't know what was possible. I thought that was for people who weren't from South Shields, and then I left South Shields and I was like, ooh. And then that's gotten better and better. That's why I'm traveling so often. You get to see what's actually possible. So I'd never seen that, but as I was working in this gym and I was in Harrogate for a bit, I was like, actually, maybe I don't need to be told what to do. Maybe I don't need a job. And then this is what changed for me. I was at home in a bit of a huff. I'd moved back to my mum and dad's at this point. They were, funny enough, when I got them a free gym membership, they were fine. You know what I'm saying, Mum? She'll be listening. My mum will be listening. I got a free membership and I started to get that I was passionate about it and that it was okay and that I could do okay making the money. Clearly, I wasn't making that much money because I had to live at home with my parents on 11 grand a year.
Yeah,
but I loved the work. I just didn't like being told what to do. I didn't like, there was just something about it there. I felt trapped. And I was like, it just didn't work for me. And I kept having to be a lifeguard. I kept having to watch the pool. It's called Go Poolside, where the lifeguards had the break, and that was the most boring thing I've ever done. In a pool where you could touch the bottom. Watch in case someone drowns. You have to, and I was just standing there watching people. It just didn't do it for me. So I remember this day quite clearly. It was I think I must have been on like a late shift, like a 2 till 10 shift in the gym. So in the more I hated that shift because you couldn't really do anything.
You're just waiting around,
to go to work. So I had QVC on, and this fucking big bastard with massive hands, big teeth, started coming on, and it was Tony Robbins.
Right. Okay.
And I'd never heard any of his shit. And he was talking about a box set called Get the Edge, and he was saying all this cool shit about living the life of your dreams. I'd never been exposed to this either. And I was like, shit, this is amazing. And then I got sent a CD box set. That's how long ago it was. And that was like, oh shit. And that changed everything for me.
So do you feel like that was desperation? Because if you're watching QVC waiting to get to work and someone's basically giving you the life answers and you're like,
a little bit, but it was kind of like, I would say inspiration rather than desperation. Rather than desperate, I would say inspiration. I heard him, I was like, fuck me, that sounds like something I could do. That.
So if we go from that moment, Paul, right, and we'll fast forward to your first bit of success, how did that look like? Can you remember your first bit where you think, fucking hell, I think I've actually kind of won my way through here?
I can. It wasn't when I was doing one-to-one PT. I felt like I was okay when I was doing one-to-one PT. It was when I was going for... This is mad, this. So me and Leslie had split up for a bit and she bought me out of a mortgage and I blew that money straight on a fucking car, right? Blew that money on coke, cars, all that shit, right? And I remember at this point in my time, I was self-employed fully at this point and I was driving to people's houses and training them. And I was teaching classes in fucking Springs. Can you know what that is?
The old Springs gym on Wesley Way.
Springs all over the place. Wesley Way,
right,
Shields. There was one in Newcastle. There was one in Kingston Park. It was.
Aye.
I'd go around all these gyms teaching body pump, Pilates, aqua aerobics, boxercise.
Self-employed though.
Yeah, self-employed. So I'd do that in various gyms and then go to people's houses and train them. Remember one morning I was driving back from North Shields where I trained someone, and this guy came from the other side of the road and ploughed straight into me. And I fucking got really hurt. I was in hospital for a little bit. I was off work for months. Car was written off. And at this point, I didn't have any income because you're self-employed. You don't get paid if you don't work.
Course.
Obviously, I'm fucking young, dumb, full of cum. And I'm like, I've spent all the money. I remember one woman actually, this is the bit where I was like, I've got nothing here. And I was giving it the big licks. Oh, I'm self-employed. Didn't know anyone else. I'm self-employed. I've got my own business. I'm growing this empire. And this one woman had paid for 10 sessions in advance. And I couldn't train her for 3 months and she asked for my money back. But I'd already spent it. Aye, naughty. And then I had a bunch of time on my hands and I went on a forum. Right, a forum. And the forum was like a fitness entrepreneur toolkit or something. And it's mad this, the guy whose forum it was, this is maybe 2005. The guy whose forum it was, I'm actually friends with now, which is mental. He's in New York, Ryan Lee. I've been on his podcast a bunch of times and that, millionaire. And there was this thing called the Bootcamp Starter Kit, right? And it was by a guy called Jim Labady, who I'm sure retired just on the back of this thing. CD box set again, got sent to your house. And it was basically how to set up a group training program outdoors or indoors, wherever you wanted, how to sell groups on a monthly package. So it was actually recurring income. It was actual business.
Right, okay.
Because I didn't have that before.
Actual model.
I was swapping money for time. That's not business.
No,
swapping money for time.
Yeah.
So I'd seen this model and I'm pretty sure I was the first person in the UK to set that up.
Yeah.
Pretty sure. 2005, 2006, set it up. No pay as you go, 100 quid a month. And then I was like, that blew up quickly. And then that was when I was like, shit, maybe I'm all right at this.
Did people change around you then? Do you know
what
I mean?
I don't know. I was too self-obsessed.
Oh, yeah.
I was too busy. I'd found me thing.
But you know,
I found me thing. I was like, this is for me. I'm great. I like the fitness element. I hate body pump and aqua aerobics and that, but I fucking love performing in front of a group.
Were you still into doing a bit drugs and that?
I'm from South Shields, of course I was.
And how did you get introduced to all that? Was that just literally product environment type of thing?
Environment, aye. Environment, do you want one of these? I'll have one. Oh, fucking hell. Sheesh. This is nice.
Because obviously I know that.
I don't like it, I just like the smell.
So
it smells nice.
So obviously the drugs and all that as well. I want to mention this, because obviously a lot of people will have seen that viral video when you were going to take your own life, Paul. I was one of the people who's seen that. And I've known people who've, took their own life. So when I'd seen that, I was like, fucking hell, like, I'm going to be honest, first time I seen it, I thought, because you're a local lad to me, I'm from along the road, I was like...
You said along the road there, by the way. That was in English. You went, I'm from along the road.
Along the road. Along the road. But when I saw it, it made us feel two ways. I felt like this guy needs help.
Yeah.
Clearly you did.
Yeah.
But I also felt like, why are you doing this?
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, the people who I know have done that never did that. And the people who have gone, sadly, didn't do that.
Mm-hmm.
Why did you film that?
It's a great question, that, you know. So this day, I remember it clearly. I had a friend called Mark. I say had a friend, he's still me mate. And I met him in the fitness game back in the day. He was a PT back in the day, and then he became a video guy, a very good one, obviously. Mm-hmm. And he said, Paul, I'd love to be a video guy. Video was kind of just blown up on Facebook back then. This is 2016, this.
Right.
2016, this. And he'd come up and would record marketing videos. I had this company called Marketing Muscle Inner Circles where I met James Smith.
Yeah.
He's one of my clients, and many top PTs who I work with in that program. In fact, have you seen Javino? Do you know who Javino is? No. Javino McLean. He works with disabled people. He's amazing.
Right, okay.
You should have him on your podcast, actually. He's fucking incredible. He messaged me this morning. He's like, Paul, I'm blown up. He said, I remember being your marketing. I was like, shit, you were in Marketing Muscle Inner Circle. It's mad. Anyway, I had this company, and I had Lean Greens at the time. I'd started this supplement company.
Yes.
And he'd come up and would shoot marketing videos for the day.
Mm-hmm.
Like, would shoot a month's worth of marketing content. I'd drop a video every week. And the end of one day, I was like, Mark, and I think I was in Wake Up Warrior at the time, so I'd been doing a lot of work on myself, a lot of work on my personal development.
How old were you at this point, Paul?
2016, I'd have been 36.
Right, okay.
36.
And you've had success before this point, haven't you?
I made my first million in 2014.
Right.
First million in 2014, so I had the supplement company, I had the marketing company then. Mm-hmm. Started the marketing company in 2012, I think.
Right,
maybe 2012.
So you've been grafting away, self-employed.
Self-employed since fucking a long time ago. Marketing Muscle Inner Circle. I've got Lean Greens. We're making these marketing videos. Like, Mark, listen, I think I've got something I want to say. In fact, here's what happened. I went to see Deadpool. Mm-hmm. It was when Deadpool came out, whenever that was. And I'd seen it. And at the time, I was writing daily emails. And the daily emails I'd write would just be, I still do this, were from lessons. And I'd wrote an email about Deadpool saying that Deadpool had went through his transformation. He had to go through a lot of pain to fucking transform. He had to become fucking indestructible. He'd had to go through all that shit that he's promised with a cure for cancer, and he'd had to basically die and come back to life. Mm-hmm. And that was just at the front of my mind. And on the day that I made that video, at the start of it, we actually edited it out in the end. If you look on YouTube, there's a bit of me being Deadpool with a Deadpool fucking costume on at the start.
Right, okay.
And that just led to me talking about just the shit that I'd been through. And the mad part is, I'd sat on that video for about 18 months.
Fucking hell.
I'd had that video for 18 months. I mean, Mark would be like, when you dropping that video from the cliff, I was like, mate, I've been really busy. And he kept messages and messages and messages and messages, and eventually I was like...
Had you been busy?
I was just scared to put it out. I was scared because I was still scared about what people think then.
Yeah.
What if my mates say it?
Were you scared of your own thoughts then as well?
Oh, I could never be on my own. Mm-hmm. I could never be on my own. I was scared of what my mates would say. I was scared of my parents seeing it. I mean, I'm talking about fucking cocaine. I'm talking about porn. I'm talking about all kinds of drugs. I'm talking about fucking hell. I'm talking about suicidal thoughts. I'm talking about anxiety. I'm talking about all that kind of shit. What if my mates see it? What if my mum sees it? What if my fucking missus hadn't seen it? And I was just scared. And then one day, I remember this quite clearly. I don't talk about this very often. I was in Wake Up Warrior at the time, and Garrett White would be like, Paul, you need to be doing this. You are a man's man, a bloke's bloke. I was like, am I? He's like, you need to be coaching men. And I was like, nah, I've got this marketing thing. I don't want to do that. And I knew that I wanted to do it. In fact, I remember once I went to Wake Up Warrior 2016 that year, and I had a conversation with a guy called Satema Gali. Satema won the Super Bowl with the New England Patriots, which is amazing. And he's a coach. He was one of the coaches in Wake Up Warrior at the time. He's like, I went in, and the time before that, I'd said I was going to do something. It was every quarter I'd go to Laguna Beach, California. Mm-hmm. And I told him that I was going to do something. And the time I went back, 3 months later, I said I was going to do it again. And he was like, you said that last time? You're full of shit. And I'd never heard that before. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, I was like, fuck it. I'm going to drop this video. And then I still didn't drop it. And then I remember seeing a guy, I'm sure he's still doing it now, and he was talking about being a man, and he was doing the man coaching thing. Mm-hmm. And he had a fucking man bun. And he still lived with his parents. And I was like, basically, I got triggered by him doing what I want to do. And I was like, fuck this. And I dropped the video. And then, obviously, it went a bit...
How did you fail? So you've pressed upload.
Oh, terrified.
You've clicked upload, right? What's the process then?
Don't check your phone for 3 days.
Is that what you did? No, but
Didn't
you just
check
thinking,
it.
fuck
I didn't
that,
look.
I can't even.
I didn't look, and then I started looking, and then all the things I was scared of started happening.
And what kind of things?
Should have jumped.
Was it all that?
Should have jumped. You're a pussy.
Mum and Dad, did they get in contact with you about it?
Nah.
Never seen it really at the time.
They'll have seen it, but I haven't talked about it ever.
Yeah.
I mean, fucking
you
hell.
still haven't talked
I
about it.
talk about my live show. My mum and dad have seen me live show twice. Do you know what I mean? I talk about it all the time. But it is what it is.
So them comments, how did they play on your mind?
Oh, fuck with me. I was like, fuck you. What's your
Because
address?
do you think that was part of the reason why you didn't put it out?
Oh, aye. He has me address. Fucking come and get some. Say that to me face, you daft cunt. I didn't know how to respond. I was like, and then I'd look on a profile, I'd be like, go and fucking show your daughter that's what you've just typed to somebody else's dad. And I'd just be angry and I'd be arguing with people. And eventually I had to get my head around it. It's like,
were you getting help as well?
That time, probably not. I mean, I was discharged. From the at-risk category. At-risk basically means you could kill yourself soon. And I was on this at-risk category for about 2 years. I'd been discharged before I dropped that video, I think. So I was on suicide watch for a couple of years. I was on at-risk from the mental health support team for 2 years. I think I'd been released by then. But then obviously I was still in Wake Up Warrior, so they were giving me some help, and I was studying and I was reading and I was in the personal development thing. And then I think eventually I was just like, what the fuck am I doing? Arguing with people on the internet? Do you know what I mean? It's insane. That's not even the real world. The internet, right? If you think about it, right? Your phone is like a VR headset. You can take the cunt off anytime you want and realize that's not real life.
Yeah, exactly.
It is a VR headset.
Yeah, of course it is.
Do you know what I mean?
It's a nice way to think
it's
about
a VR
that,
headset. As soon as I take that VR headset off, things are very different.
And it's funny though, because it's ironic because them things played on your mind, right? All the comments, which are gonna, the negative comments, obviously being the type of person you are. But ironically, you're quite risk averse and thick skinned to get to where you are. Because I know you still get shit now. I know you still get dodgy. That's what I'm saying. You still get people telling you to do
so much.
So
I quite enjoy it now.
That's what I'm saying.
I love to have fun with them.
It's different, isn't it, with you?
I've had to change it.
Do you think that video in particular helped you build your brand and business?
Oh, 1,000,000%. 1,000,000%. Because I started getting, as well as those negative comments, there was people reaching out to me. In my lives, in fact, I rehearsed it. I've got a keynote in Manchester Saturday. And even though I've done it 1,000,000 times, I still rehearse. I still fucking rehearse. Because I want to do the best job possible. If someone's paying me to be on their stage, I'm gonna be the best speaker they see that day. That's just what I'm committed to. Even if I'm not, I'll be leave no stone unturned when it comes to rehearsal. I know that shit word for word. I never have to be like, what am I supposed to be talking about now? Ever. I'm not that guy. So I watched it. Sorry, in that talk, I started getting people reaching out to me. I saw some yesterday. I was like, and I talked about the criticism, and then I talked about the same time as you get criticism, there are people praising you, and people were praising me, but also they're reaching out to me. Paul, you've changed. How have you changed? What have you done? How have you got around that? And then I was like, yeah, maybe I am supposed to help people. Maybe Garrett was right.
Did it open your eyes? Did you think, actually, there's loads of lads going through this type of thing?
Oh,
you're like,
mate, so many. There's probably 10 times, in fact, more than that.
Think the amount of lives that you've saved by doing that.
Oh, thousands.
It's almost like you're being a guinea pig, innit?
I saved someone's life on Sunday.
Did you really?
Someone messages, I'm going to kill myself. I get it all the time. Sometimes I can't help. Sometimes I have to direct them somewhere else.
I was going to say, because that must put a lot of burden on you, though, as well.
So much burden. So much burden, mate. But I'd like to think, because I've lived through it, and I'm equipped with the skills, and I'm trained, and I'm qualified, and I'm certified, and all that kind of shit. I'm equipped with the skills to deal with that in a way that most people couldn't.
I suppose, though, Paul.
I mean, I've had people on a live tell me they're going to kill themselves.
Well,
I've been on a live with hundreds of people there.
I know, it's like, I suppose by putting yourself on YouTube like that with that video, it's gonna happen. It comes with it, doesn't it?
With it, aye.
I know
it's the cost of entry.
It's not a nice thing to ask, but I would like to ask you it anyway. Has there ever been? Do you know anyone who's actually took the
one girl
after
one girl,
right?
One girl, but the thing is, the people that say they're gonna do it don't do it. One girl did it. Jenny, she's fucking amazing as well.
Did you know her as well? Like, she
was in one of my programs.
Bloody hell.
She wasn't at the time, but she'd been in one of my programs, and something quite traumatic happened to her. In fact, really traumatic. Really, I can't really talk about it because it's still fine. There's still stuff going on. Like, someone had lied to her, and then she had a bunch of trauma. So much trauma after that, and I knew about the trauma, but if someone says they're going to do it, what they're really asking for is help. Jenny didn't say anything, and then she was gone. So, and I remember, I think I was on holiday at the time, and I came back, I was like, holy fucking shit. Newspapers contacted us, Paul, have you got anything you'd like to say? I'm like, yeah, Jenny was fucking amazing, etc., etc. But yeah, that's the only one. I mean, I know more people than that who've done it, but not as a result of. I mean, she didn't even speak to me about it.
Yeah, of course.
Because I would have been able to handle it. I would have been more than happy. People that end their own life were the same as me. Everyone that ends their own life do so because they can't see a future. They can't see beyond the pain of where they're at right now. It's like they've got the blinkers on and the pain of the past. They can't see beyond that. So that if you can get somebody tapped into a compelling future, create some leverage for them about other people, because that's who it affects, then that's how you intervene.
So do you think if someone did watch or listen to this now, right, and I know it's fucking awful, if this was the last day on earth and they were really thinking about it and they just happened to stumble across this for whatever mad reason, could you give them one bit of advice or something where you can actually just do this? I'm not saying it's going to save their life, but that you could
consider who it would impact, because they have to live with that for the rest of their lives. So you don't end your own pain; you pass your pain on to someone else.
Because for you, it was your kids, wasn't it?
It was my kids. I still remember the words that changed my life, and as a result, a lot of other people's. When my wife said, "Think of the kids," and I was like, "Well, I am," because at that point, mate, when you're that low, there's zero fucking logic. It's all emotion, and not good emotion either. All unpleasant, unwanted, fucking neggy emotions, painful emotions. And when you don't have the tools to deal with it, when you're not equipped with the things that you need to shift it, or you don't even understand that your feelings are your responsibility. I thought I was powerless at this point. I was the ultimate victim. Blaming all sorts of shit for the way that I felt. And I was like, I am thinking about the kids. They'll be better off without me. That's what people think. They'll be better off without me. And my wife said, well, okay. And my wife's been on a bunch of podcasts since this because people are intrigued as to what it's like. No one ever talks about what it's like to live with someone.
Yeah, that's it.
That's low. And she said she was almost close to just letting me do it because she could see how much pain I was in.
Right, mate.
So she then said, well, okay then, think about the kids then growing up as those kids whose dad killed himself. And that, I wasn't willing for that to happen. There's no way on earth that I would let that happen. Because they'd have to carry that the rest of their lives.
Yeah, exactly.
And whether I wrote them a note or not, they'd still feel like it was their fault. My wife would still feel like it was her fault. All my friends would think I could have done more.
Does it spiral into that mode where you're like, I'm gonna or can it just come over someone?
I don't know.
You don't know.
No,
it's just purely individual.
I think it's a long thought out process. I think some people will be very reactive. Very reactive. Like there's a guy on Sunday his first thought was, I'm gonna kill myself. Something had happened and he was, I'm gonna kill myself.
Right, okay. So it's very in the moment as well.
It
can be
very
totally individual.
But I think I think he said that, but I think he's obviously had thoughts of it before. Yeah, it seems to be it'll be a recurring thought for a little while when you can't see another way out.
I want to spin this around a bit. You said you made your first million when you were in your 20s, was it?
34.
34, sorry. 34. What did that feel like?
I just looked 20s. Tell you what it felt like. It felt nothing like I thought it would. Nothing like it.
What did you think it would feel like?
I thought I'd feel like a fucking gangster. I thought I'd feel like the top G. Do you know what I mean? But I didn't really feel anything. It's just a number. It's just a number on a bank account. I mean, it felt pretty good, but I remember, here's another example of social media. I was like, I've just made my first million. Guess what I got? Criticism.
It's crazy, isn't it?
Had a bunch of people saying, how have you done it? And that's amazing and well done. But then other people in the comments. And again, it's the cost of entry. If you want to play, if you want to play that game of celebrating your achievements, some people call it bragging. I don't, because it inspires a bunch of people. And it did inspire people. You're going to get the odd person, oh, well, how much of that was profit? Well, most of it, mate. Actually, I know what I'm doing. You don't make $1 million without knowing what you're doing.
And is it, I know this sounds mad, is it hard to make $1 million?
It's not easy, but it's very simple. It's just maths. Maths is a game.
And did you actually strategically plan for that? I was like, well, we're doing well, we'll hit $1 million, class. I was like, no, it's a number. I want to make this.
It's a number. It's a number that you want to make. Like it starts off as well. I want to make, when you first go self-employed, I want one client. I want 1,000 a month. I want 10 grand a month. I want the 6 figures. And then ultimately from there, right, I want $1 million. You go from 6 figures to wanting $1 million, which is quite a fucking large jump. And then I suppose it was just a case of, and listen, I'm actually not the most strategic. I like the chaos. I like the chase. I like the hustle. I like the, how am I going to close this gap? I'm not the step-by-step guy. That's not me. Let's fucking just make it happen, whatever means necessary. I'm a bit better now because I have to, it's about where I'm at now. It's allocation of time and energy for me. But back then, it was, how many deals do I have to make? That's all it
for
is.
me,
Is making deals.
What inspires me, to be honest, mate, about you, from a business world. Like I've worked. I mean, you've hired us. I've been to your shows. I've been backstage. I know what you got. I know what you like. You're fucking brilliant at what you do. You
Thank
are.
you, mate. I appreciate that.
And I've been to a couple of your shows, and you're fucking phenomenal. And I'd come to every show. I'd do the same show again because I know like there is an energy. It's not even about what you're saying and how you do they come out in the heels on and all that mad shit you do. But it's not even about that. It's about actually this is a fella. Maybe it's because I'm from the northeast, but this is a fella who's come from basically fuck all, and he's macking something of himself, regardless what that is. And the money isn't something that I'm getting. Fuck it, it's not about money. I didn't give it.
It's mad the money thing, because nothing triggers people more than money. I can't think of any subject that triggers people more than money. And what I learned about money, because in the Northeast we're not trained with money at all. In fact, almost everyone I know has there's not enough mindset, scarcity mindset, and there's not enough money to go around. And you got to think about this. We're conditioned from an early age. You think that anybody with money must be a crook.
Aye, that's right.
Must be a crook. Must be ripping people off.
Aye.
I get that all the time. You're ripping people off. I'm like, hang on a second. My income is a direct correlation of how good I am at helping people and how many people I help. Full stop. Because money is an exchange of value. You believe that time spent with me in my program will be valuable to you. You believe that your problem is more expensive than my solution that I'm offering. And it's not as though I'm forcing people to give me money. Fucking hell. I put out better content for free than most people charge for. How many people do you know that have 3 free books, a free course, thousands of fucking free videos, a free podcast, and puts on free Q&As every day, has what else do I do for free? Has a free Telegram fucking channel, does free online seminars. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly.
No one does that, but I
Yeah.
still get people criticise me for wanting to charge for
But that's where the value is, isn't it? It's like,
That is where the value is.
If I'm getting this for free, what's he going to do if I pay him?
People that pay attention.
Yeah.
People that put skin in the game. People that invest want a return on the investment. The people don't value free. I wouldn't say that I've really transformed anybody's life who hasn't put skin in the game.
Do you ever feel like you've got to convince someone to pay you? Or do you think they'll come to
There's
you
an
when
element
they're ready?
where you got to think about this. You often don't get paid for your competence, how good you are. You do, but you get paid for your communication. So I'm just good at demonstrating how valuable what I do is. That's it. And when people see how valuable that is, they're like, yeah, man. Yeah,
I
man.
get that.
Change me life for fucking that much money. Aye.
But how does
That's why I get criticism. I'm like, mate, you spend that every week on fucking sniff.
It's mad though, because
Let's swap that. Swap the sniff. Give me the money. I'll fucking change your life.
how does a bloke with a couple of GCSEs, you know what I mean? Like,
Dunno.
never really. Like, how do?
Dunno.
But okay, so email domination,
Yes.
right? And James Smith and all these
Yes.
big names that you've worked with
Yes.
now. There's a million. I didn't
Yes.
want to go on about Smith. It's just there's that
Yeah.
many
Yeah.
unbelievable characters that you work with.
Yeah.
What are you doing to get to that level where people are like, actually, I'm gonna pay this bloke?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Because a lot of these guys have gone on to be massive people.
Massive.
So like, because a lot of people, and I know you, and I know what you're all about, and a lot of people look at you and going, well, he's only got 40k or 50k following, and I'm thinking, but I'm on knackers who've
Mate,
got 10 million followers.
I
and
get that all the
So-
time, and then I show them the Porsche I've just got.
Do you know? But that exactly. So that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So
I get it all the time, aye.
So how does that kind of correlate for you? Like, how do you kind of? Do you ever get that imposter syndrome and all? Do you ever think, well, I should have 20 million? Someone said on my podcast the other day, and it actually pissed us off, you know. He went, mate, you're so underrated. I went, how am I underrated? I've just started. How am I under? No, it's right. I shouldn't have a. Why should I have a following? What right have I got to have a following right now?
So I believe that my income is a direct correlation of how many people I actually help and how good I am at helping them. I believe that what I'm doing is communicating how I can solve someone's problem very well. I actually thought about this the other day. This is a new statement that's in me head right now. When I said it to guys on Zoom, and they were like, fucking hell, that makes sense. I don't know many problems that money can't solve. I don't know many problems that money can't solve. So if you have the money to solve a problem, you don't have a problem. But on the flip side of that, if you have something that can solve people's problem, you're going to get money.
Yeah, I get that.
That's it. That's how money works. Money will always congregate towards people who can solve problems. I solve people's problems. And I do that through my knowledge, the tools that I learn, and the way that I communicate it. That's it.
What is the biggest problem you solve for a man?
The biggest problem altogether, how to get their shit together and stop fucking things up.
And to you, what is someone who hasn't got their shit together looking like?
I mean, this is very personal, but usually they're doing all right in their business. They're drinking, they're sniffing. Their wife hates them. They're usually carrying a bit of weight. But really, it's about their emotions. They can't master their emotions. They become a victim and a prisoner to their thoughts and their emotions. That's what they're really like. They're a prisoner to their thoughts and emotions. Their mood swings. They're jumping from fucking happy to sad to depressed. They're fucking on fire to fucking anxious to calm. They're jumping around all these emotions. And I would say that overriding emotion is probably some kind of overwhelm.
And do you think you could deliver the value you deliver if you'd not been through them things? No. So you think you've had to have done it?
Yeah. I was talking to James Haskell about this. He was like, why do you think what you do works so well? I'm like, I'm a northern fucking bloke. I was an engineer. I don't like fluff. Takes too long. Takes too long. Mm-hmm. That's one of the things with ADHD. I'm like, I can't. If something takes too long, I'm not doing it. Stop. I can do little bits. If success takes a long time, just tell me this little bit that I have to do, and I'll do that bit, and then tomorrow I'll do that next bit. But if I have to sit down for long periods of time, it's not fucking happening. So I said, because I'm northern, because I'm from a working class background. I hate saying that, actually. Everyone seems to say that, don't they? Mm-hmm. From a working class background. I'm from South Shields. It's a bit of a shithole. Beautiful, but it's not affluent at all. But I'm a very practical guy. So I don't speak from theory or textbooks. I'll tell you my experience. I'll tell you what I learned from it, and then often I'll give you a tool. It's up to you whether you want to use the tool. So there's very little theory when you work with me. I'm like, I'll tell you my experience of it. I'll tell you how I came to that conclusion, but then I'll give you the tool. I'll tell you the what and the why, but then I'll give you the how.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying?
I do.
I'll give you the how. I'll give you most people just talk about the what and the why. I'm going to put the how in there. And when you understand the what and the why, in other words, you add value to it, or you add meaning to the how, then the how becomes easy. So I teach people how to make the how easy, but I also give them the how.
It's crazy.
And the how's individual. I'm just asking questions. I'm not saying do this, do this. I'm like, fill that form in. Answer these questions so you come to your own conclusion. That's what coaching is. When people are like, oh, one size doesn't fit all, I'm like, I know. That's why I'm not going to give you a fucking plan. I'm going to ask you fucking world-class questions. You're going to come up with the answers, not me. It's not me that has the answers. Yeah, I have the tools. I've came up with the strategies, the tools, the techniques. It's up to you whether you want to execute them or not.
For me, I look at it and I think I would probably say 99% of your success from the outside looking in is your communication skills. Like that's the big. Even me, right, knowing who you are. Even when you're doing like one of them frees, I'm going to have a look at this. Even me, because I know what you do. I know what it is that you're getting. And even I'm getting. Even if I'm not getting like, I'm not going for a certain thing. It's like
new. Yeah.
It's like fucking energy. There's some bloke getting after it at this time.
Sometimes I just say that. Sometimes like if you want energy like this, and it's not even physical energy. It's a sense of purpose. It's fire in your belly. It's that inner flame, I call it. If you want that, I'll show you how to do it.
So have you always been able to have that energy? Because obviously when you've been at your low times and your high times, is that what it is?
Yeah.
Just an imbalance of energy?
It's a sense of purpose. The times that I've been the lowest are the times when I've got to where I wanted to get to and thought, is this it?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You think about this, 2014, fuck me. 2014, I've made my first million. I'm living in Marbella in a 4-bedroom villa with a private pool, with a hot wife, with 2 amazing kids and a brand new BMW. Working about fucking 8 hours a week. That's it. And then I was like, is this it? So I'd done everything I thought I wanted to do.
Bit of the Tyson Fury crack that, innit?
It is. Anyone that I've spoke to, Ann Middleton was rock bottom because he was the same. Ann Middleton left the SES, he got in the SES, did all these things. He was like, is this it? Tyson Fury's the same. Anybody, Ricky Hatton will be the same. I've never interviewed Ricky, but I've spoke on I've been his speaking guy at 2 sportsman's dinners, and he said the same. They all say the same. They get to a point, they achieve what they want to achieve, and then they stop.
So how do you avoid that by just creating new goals?
You keep raising your standards. That's what I call it, raising your standards. The moment you start raising your standards, you don't maintain. You start fucking slipping back because it's like a conveyor belt. Time will just keep going. So eventually time will go past where you were. You see it all the time, and people get stuck in the past all the time. So you've got to have, in fact, I've read a quote yesterday. It's from a guy that I work with called Dan Sullivan. He said, if you want to make your present better, make your future bigger. I was like, that's fucking banging.
That.
Make your future bigger.
There's a real
if I can't see a compelling vision of my future, what have I got to get excited about except Friday?
So what are you putting in your future plans now?
Oh, well, I have. You'll see.
Other than holidays.
There's one on the wall there. There's one on the wall there. Here's what life's about for me. Experiences are the best part of being human. What I want to see, where do I want to travel, who do I want to meet, what do I want to experience in my life, right? A lot of people call that bucket list. And then, so life's about experiences. It's about impact. Who do I want to impact? What am I going to create that impacts people? A lot of people call it contribution, but I don't really like that word. Who am I going to give? What am I going to dedicate time to? What connections? I'm a connector of people, me. What connections am I going to share? What am I going to give? So impact's about giving. Time, energy, knowledge, opportunities, connections, money, if you want to give money. So who am I going to impact? And then lastly, how do I want to grow? Life is about growth, contribution, and experiences. And once you know that, you just aim for that. You know what I mean? Life will always find a way to remind you that it's not about comfort. This is the trap that people fall in. They think they're comfortable until they're not. They avoid discomfort and end up with it anyway. Like, funny enough, I said this, I was rehearsing yesterday and I said, ask somebody in business that gets comfortable or thinks they're comfortable and avoids the discomfort of making videos in today's world. Avoid somebody in business that avoids the discomfort of making a sales call. Avoid someone that, even someone in work who avoids the discomfort of asking for a pay rise or going for that different job or that promotion. They end up with the discomfort of hating where they're at anyway. So you avoid discomfort, you end up even uncomfortable anyway. You avoid someone, you ask somebody who avoids the discomfort of exercise and the discomfort of a bit of discipline on the diet, they end up with the discomfort of being fat and unhealthy. Like, comfortable life doesn't exist.
Well, you say, don't you, about staying the same when that's worse.
Life will always find a way to fucking slap you across the chops and say, life is about growth, and growth is always uncomfortable. It's supposed to be uncomfortable. You don't get stronger lifting the fucking light weights, do you?
Exactly.
You get stronger lifting the heavy weights, doing more reps, doing more sets, and increasing your levels of discomfort until it becomes comfortable. And then guess what you do? Stretch again. So it's about constantly raising your standards.
How do you feel now? Are you happy?
I feel fucking great. I'm happy this second, but I might not be later this afternoon. Something might happen.
Does that bother you? Like, in terms of, like, I know I'm going to be up and down. And
no, because I know that happiness isn't it. I'm not supposed to be happy. Happiness is an emotion. I can feel happy just by thinking happy thoughts. I can feel unhappy just by thinking unhappy thoughts. Like, people get obsessed with this. It's not a state of being. It's a temporary emotion. You're not supposed to feel one emotion all the time. Like, emotion means energy in motion.
So when you say it every day, because I see it on your stories when you're walking to work, whatever you're doing, you walk in the office, you're traveling, you often say, like, show up every day. I know you say that a lot, and I love that, to be fair, mate. How do you show up every day?
Probably one of the first things I do in the morning. I made a note of it on my phone this morning. If you're looking at the notes on my phone, you will see every bit of content I'm going to do for 6 months, because that's all I do. I'll get a little idea, I'll say a little something, and then I made a note this morning saying how to make mornings easy. Mornings are easy when you can align yourself mentally, physically, and emotionally with that vision of your future that excites you, with something that you're striving for. Yeah. I did train on this the other day, the word striving. I'm quite excited by that. What are you striving for? When people come at me when they're not feeling great, I'm like, what are you striving for in your life right now? Guess what they say? Nothing. That's why you feel like shit. Most people are striving for no more than what they've currently got. Yeah. But what they've currently got, they don't like. But they're not striving for more. In fact, most of them are talking shit about people that are striving for something. I love this quote as well. Sit on the table, get around the people that are talking about opportunities and growth and striving for things, instead of sitting on the table where people talk shit about other people. I'd stay away from that table.
Do you have anyone in your life who talks shit about other people?
Everyone.
In terms of that, though, you know, they say, like, you're one of the 5 people you hang around with and all that.
Oh, mate, my mum's watching. My mum could not have a conversation unless there was other people in the conversation. Most people are the same.
I get that.
I'm just okay with it. I'm like, other people just don't have the tools, that they haven't had the exposure to tools and techniques and the people that I've had exposure to. So I'm like, I haven't got a problem with it.
And in business, Paul, because I've seen a lot, right? I have seen a lot of these, a bit like you, people who, I'm saying they're not you, but people who almost try to be you. Yeah. I've actually, to be honest, mate, I've actually seen people, it's almost like they're putting the accent on and that. I've actually seen it. You know, I have. I
really?
have like they actually gone on a bit, like, and I'm thinking, are they really about that, or do they see this as a business opportunity? Are you bothered about these other coaches or you know, transformation coaches?
I don't even see them.
You're not saying them?
Nah.
Because I know you've said quite a bit that you're a creator, not a consumer.
I'm not a consumer, correct. I'm not a consumer. What happens, I consume every now and again if I want to learn something. Clearly, I'm attached to people and I'm plugged into people. But too much if I consume without action, or information without action equals consumption. And when you consume too much, you end up fucking fat. So you end up mentally fat. You end up with a load of knowledge, but zero. Mate, there are smarter people in the world than me who want to do what I do.
I
But
just
they're just
thought
not
when
doing
you
it.
go back to them days when you used to look at, when you did that video on the clips, when you were saying like you'd seen someone else.
I don't even have the Facebook app on my phone or the Instagram app.
Right,
I
okay.
use Meta Business Suite because there's no feed.
All right.
There's no feed on the Meta Business Suite app. So I can post content. I can reply to content. I can get me DMs. I can schedule reels and that. I mean, I've got a team that does that.
Mm-hmm.
But if I'm on doing shit, I have no feed. So I don't consume.
Obviously, you're Paul Mort, you've built a brand, you've built a business successful.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely love it, mate. Like I say, I've been down, I've filmed with you, I've worked with you,
Mm-hmm.
I've seen everything you're about, and congratulations, mate. It's
Oh, thank you, mate. I
fucking
appreciate
mint,
that.
mate.
I like to think what I'm hoping you're gonna say, and what I'd like to think, I'm exactly the same in person as I am on the internet. There's
Aye.
no
There's
no in
difference.
between. I remember someone once said to me once, in fact, it was Mark, the video guy. I didn't know him that well at the time. It's 2016. I'm like, Paul, I've seen all these versions of you. I've seen the angry version, I've seen the calm version, I've seen the hippie version, I've seen the aggressive version. He said, which one of them's actually you? I said, all of them.
Aye.
All of them people are fucking me. All of them versions are all me.
Mm-hmm.
I'm all right with that.
Well, all I get is fucking high energy positive.
thank you,
Like
mate.
that's what I do. Like, do you know? And again, it's why I wanted to get you on.
Yeah.
What does it feel like? Because obviously you've been on stage. You know, you've opened up for the likes of Gary V, Stephen Bartlett stuff. There's loads of big
Stephen
names.
Bartlett again in
Right.
September.
What is it like to work with, be associated with, or talk with people like that and have those profiles?
I'll tell you what's wild.
Now, and again, I just want, because what I want to go back to, so you've got Gary Vaynerchuk, Tony Rock, you know, all these big names, and then you've got little Paul Mort from Shield.
Yeah.
How do you feel like that? Because I mean, I've did quite a few high profile jobs now, and sometimes when I'm on them, I think, fucking hell, like they're paying me. When really, like, is the other guys? But no, they've come to me for a reason.
That's
how
exactly
do you feel?
how I feel. That's exactly how I feel. But what I've also realised, these people are just human.
Mm-hmm.
They're just human. It's what if I'm interviewing all these people, Tyson Fury and that, is they're not that special.
Do you ever get the impression? I was going to say, do you ever get the impression that
I don't get starstruck.
even
at
with
all.
a Gary V though, do you ever think like you're just another bloke doing this? Like
He just started before me.
Yeah, you just started before me.
Aye.
But do you get
I mean, they've
inspiration
clearly-
from him?
Oh, aye.
Aye.
Oh, aye, of course I do. There's a reason why I try and... My kids were at that event.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
My kids very rarely don't come to an event because they love it. Max loves... Do you know who Alan Barrett is?
Aye. Grenade.
Alan's Grenade, aye.
Aye.
Max just fucking loves him.
Do you know him?
Oh, I know Al really well, aye.
Do you really?
Aye.
His story's mad, like. isn't
He's
it?
amazing. Max loves him because he said he's like a real life Grand Theft Auto character. He's got a car, a tank,
I got a tank for a marketing stunt.
a
or something, didn't
helicopter, a plane, a hot air balloon, and a boat. That's real life GTA shit, isn't it?
That is,
Do you know what I
aye.
mean? And he's sound as fuck. He's so cool. This is the second podcast I've mentioned him on in the last week, actually.
Is it
Big
really?
love, I but I want my kids to be. They don't care. Like they think them people are just normal. Like they'll give James Smith shit. They'll give Darren shit.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what are you wearing in that? They'll just banter them.
Mm-hmm.
They'll banter Tyson Fury. Max banters Tyson Fury, and it's for this. I want them to be around those kind of people so that they think that what they're doing isn't too big for them.
Yeah,
Because
I
this
get
is what
that.
I've realised is that often when you look at people like Gary Vee or someone that's made hundreds of millions, you're like, I can't do that. But when you're around them, you're like, actually, this is just normal for them.
Yeah,
You know
exactly.
what I mean?
I do,
We think
aye.
it's too big,
Mhm.
especially when you're from our area. You're like, that's too big.
Mhm.
I'll never be able to do that. And then you're around them. You're like, actually, they're just fucking normal. They're just committed. They know what they want. They get around people like them. They surround themselves with people that are smarter than them, right? And they fucking permanently show up aggressively. They aggressively execute imperfect shit.
That's what I'm saying though, and that's what I said to you earlier. Like when you knock around with these type of people, these characters, do you? That's why I asked, is it easy? Like you must show.
I almost think, fucking hell, if he can do that, I can fucking do that.
That's what I mean.
All
And
the
not to,
time?
not to take away from what they're doing,
not at
but
all.
aye, but it's
Not at
almost
all.
like if I just keep showing up and doing
They've
what
all
I'm
got
doing.
things in common.
Mm-hmm.
One of them is that they're human. One of them is that they're human. Most of the time, someone that's further ahead than you has just showed up more times than you, or they showed up sooner. They started when they had the idea, not when the right time, not when they'd got over thinking that everyone was going to criticize them. They just started. Do you know what I mean? They just fucking got started, and then they kept showing up, and then they showed up when people criticized them, and then they showed up when they got shit, and they just kept showing up regardless of how they felt sometimes, and that's all they did. That tends to be the only difference. They may be so I often tell this story about Smith. Me and Smith started jiu-jitsu at the same time. He'll get his brown belt next year, maybe even this year. I'm still a blue belt, and I'll be a blue belt for a long time. I started at the same time as him, but when I was doing 2 classes a week, he was doing 6. When I was
Nice.
injured, he wasn't. When I was on holiday and not training, he was still training.
More hours in the
So
time.
he's just put more hours on the mat.
yeah,
More hours on the mat, more consistently. So therefore, he's much further ahead than me. it's mad because we'll talk about him as an example. Everyone wants to do what he's doing, right? But he's done thousands of videos, not 10, and then wonder why it's not working. I still remember an email he sent me. I've still got it, and he talks about it as well. He sent a daily email for 6 months before he made a sale. I see people giving up after three emails. Not 6 months worth of emails. 6 months times 7 days a fucking week, by the way. That's 28 a month. 28 times 6 before he made a sale. Yet I see people sending 3 and giving up. It's not working. Is it not working, or are you not working?
What's your biggest failure in business?
Ooh.
Because obviously
I
you
don't really say I have any, you know.
have you not?
I've failed a lot, but they just get me, every failure that I get gets me closer to winning. I understand there's no success without failure. There's one thing I look back on, and it's only because I was talking about this in the gym this morning because I had 2 tubs of it. If I'd have kept lean greens for longer, I'd be way further ahead than I am now, money-wise. Way further ahead because I wanted to get out at the time. I was so desperate to get out that I took a bit of a cut price deal. But
is that company still going?
oh, they're killing it, aye. Email was yesterday actually the guy that bought me out. But at the time, if I hadn't sold it then, I don't know where I'd be because I was so mentally low when I sold it. I just needed to get out. I needed to get out. So,
do any of your friends that you knocked around with when you were young, mate? Did any of them want your help?
Ooh. They've never asked me directly.
Because I imagine that would be quite weird, wouldn't it? Like,
they've never asked me directly, but I can tell that they're into it. Like, I mean, none of them have ever talked shit about it, really. I mean, they might do behind my back, but who cares?
Will your kids go on your course? Would you recommend it to your son?
I mean, hopefully he won't need it. He's convinced he's going to work for me.
Do you think someone should go through it anyway, though? Because why shouldn't they? Do you know what I mean?
Possibly. It depends. I mean, when he's older, it might depend on what I'm doing. I mean, I'm just about I'm launching an Unstoppable 28 course this month. It's the last one I'm ever doing.
Right.
I'm just moving, mate. I get bored of something and I move on quite quickly.
So what's next?
Like when people talk about this all the time, and obviously I know, but in 5 years' time, who the fuck knows? This is what I'm doing now, and it's part of the reason why I think I'm able to make it work. And I've been around for so long, and I've been self-employed for so long, is that I've got no problem just shutting something off if it's not working. Like, I don't see that. People are like, oh, you're closing that down. Does that mean it's failed? I'm like, no, it just means I want to do something else.
Yeah, of course.
You know what I mean? But same with the podcast. I've got no problem stopping the podcast for a bit.
Yeah, I get
because
that.
while I do some other shit. Do you know what I mean? I've got no problem. I think when you grow something, every so often you've got to snap a bit off the end in order for it to grow more. So some things will just slow you down a little bit. So next is I want to get a book deal done. I want to do a tour based on the back of the book. On the back of the book deal. What else I want to do? I've got a lot of speaking gigs coming up. I want to fill at least 3 theatres next year on this tour. I'm going to do it's interesting this. I do a lot of seminars, but they're private, full day events. This September, I'm going to do an event at St. James's Park for the public, like a real fucking full day summit.
Right, okay.
A full day summit with some, I've already got 2 fucking amazing, my connects. I've got a female and a male who are fucking different gravy. They're not speakers, they're more celebrities who've been through some shit. I've got them lined up for this thing, so that's the few things that I'm really excited about right now.
That's unbelievable, that, mate.
I'm excited. I don't know what they're going to look like. I don't know what they're going to be called.
Is there a blueprint to follow, though? Because you see a lot of people going, right, they build a following, they've got a book tour, they do a few shows. Because you've seen, haven't you, like, obviously Smith, Dirren, you've got Chris Williamson.
Chris Williamson's blown up now.
I mean, there's no surprise
that we all have the same agent, by the way.
I get that. But there's a lot of other people who are doing that, it's that type of thing. It's like, do you kind of get directed, or is it like, I want a book now?
These are my ideas. These are my ideas. So the blueprint for me is, what do I want? What do I want? Why do I want it? What's the motive? What's in it for me? Then it's who do I know? So I haven't even touched on the how yet. People get this wrong. My secret weapon, the cheat code to getting ahead faster, is this thing that I call who, not how. I learned that off Dan Sullivan as well. Who, not how. We're obsessed with finding out how to do things. I'm obsessed with who can help me get there faster. Who knows what to do here? Who's already done it? Who's already living that? Who can open doors for me? Who can connect me to the person that I need to know for that? It's wild, that, isn't it? I was having this conversation when I was saying, I said, someone asked me about the connections, and I was doing a training on like how I do it. And that day, I'd had a conversation with my team about who we're going to get as this male guest speaker. The guy was Freddie Flintoff. And I was like, who do I know that could get Freddie as the guest speaker? That day, the guy that could get him texted us and said, hey, Paul, I want to join your latest 90-day program. I was like, fuck right off. Ain't that mad? Ain't that mad?
It is like.
We still haven't secured that deal yet, by the way, but I'm working on it.
Do you think Instagram is dying for business?
I don't know, mate. It's not. My business would tell me that it's not.
Yeah. No,
so if you're asking me from my personal point of view, the answer is no. But I don't know for everybody else.
Brilliant, mate.
I think the amount of DMs I get, horrible, cold, disingenuous questions in my DMs is a different level. But that's, for me, that's not marketing. That's shit. It's
Paul,
not value. It's not people aren't bringing value to the table.
I want to ask you one more thing. I know that you said you don't know what you're going to be doing in 5 years. I get it.
Yeah.
You've
I
lived
might
in
be
Mojave.
retired.
You might be retired. You know, you've done all them things. How does retiring look for you? I don't mean an age. I don't mean a time. How does it look?
This is such a good question, you know. Do you think that I'll be able to do nothing?
No.
Well, I thought. I think there'll be something to do with Thailand. I love Thailand. It's amazing.
I could say you're as a fucking high-energy lollipop man or something. Something like that.
No. Retirement will involve me. Me and my wife have already talked about this. Retirement will involve me just being on stage. 6, 7 times a year. Thousands of people. It'll involve jiu-jitsu. And it'll involve sun. That's all I know. And footy. There'll definitely be some football involved. I mean, fucking hell, the amount of matches that we're going to right now. My son ended up hating football. Now he's fucking doing me head. And he's like, Dad, can we go here? Dad, can we go there? Dad, can you get tickets for Preston? I'm like, of course I can, but we're not going, son. It's your ma's birthday. I've got my mum saying, can you get tickets for There's only one person I can get tickets off, and I don't want to ask him for tickets for me ma, because he's a player, and I'm not going to say, mate, can you get us 2 tickets for Preston for me ma? No, I'm saving that.
You probably do it, though.
I'm saving that as for later for the podcast. What we were talking about before.
Fair enough, mate. Paul, thank you ever
mate,
so much.
Thank you so much. I've had a lovely time.
No, no bother at all.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thanks for your time, mate. Cheers,
I love
buddy.
it.
Thank you, mate.